The U.S. did push Russia too much. We did push NATO to its borders when we said we wouldn't.
Kill me. Why is he's repeating this?
I understand all that, but at the end of the day,
what? When we said we wouldn't, when did we say that? Is he talking about the promise not to put troops in the verbal promise we made to the Soviet Union to not put troops in Eastern Germany? Really? Is that what he's talking about? Are you kidding me?
That's why NATO expanded in response to them, not because NATO wanted to expand.
It's not even like it's so easy with like this dumbass like the fucking bullshit like realist talking points. Like it's so easy to literally just like flip the narrative. Like. At what point is Ukraine just considered like in the Western sphere of influence? Like these people constantly fucking go on about the corruption of Ukraine, and then like the NED money, the National Endowment for Democracy money that we gave to Ukraine to help fix their fucking corruption, they spurg about too. They say that in itself is like evidence of corruption.
How long do we fight? How long does Ukraine
fight?
Okay. How much money do we spend? How many years of war do we have to endure? And what if Ukraine just doesn't win? So let's say we go another 2 years.
Bro, we spent 20 years and $2 trillion in Afghanistan with actual boots on the ground there and still didn't win. Motherfucker, I don't care. If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description. I'm glad they got Ukrainian Anna on here. Are you done with the Russian propaganda? All right, let's see. I hope Piers has good Ukraine takes. Oh boy.
It's already begun. That was a chilling warning of two United States national security experts this week. And the evidence is certainly mounting. Syria, Gaza, Lebanon, Ukraine are all red hot. They're all regional proxy wars with the United States at their apex, whether most voters want it to stay there or not. Part of it is we focused on Joe Biden's disaster.
That guy, okay.
And the cover it provides for Trump's own clemencies. But Trump's war strategy will have much bigger consequences, and the world is awaiting his answers. He campaigned and won with a populist anti-war message, but now he's warning that Hamas will have hell to pay if it fails to release the hostages, and he has a cabinet with a bite to match.
He campaigned on supporting Israel way harder than Kamala Harris did. He campaigned on letting Israel finish the job. He was not anti-war when it came to Israel, but all right.
Ukraine's President Zelensky.
He did not change his opinion on that. That's always been his
membership, and NATO apparently agrees, but he won't make any decisions until Trump is back in the White House, and Putin may not be interested anyway. Many people think that a rapid retreat may provoke Putin, and is the safest way back from the brink.
We've watched from the United States as the Biden administration.
Oh, why did I think he would? Why did I think he would show anyone else? Oh my God! What the fuck? Why did I thought it was. Okay, sorry, that just blew my mind to say like many people think a rapid retreat would like. Why did I expect him to play anyone Tucker Carlson? Okay, this is to many people. Someone who. I would not be surprised if Tucker Carlson is being paid by Russia. Okay, it's his second fucking time in Russia, and he sucks the dick off of Putin all the time. And he, oh my God.
Administration has driven the U.S. ever closer to a nuclear conflict with Russia, the country that possesses the world's
Dude, the fucking grocery store video, man, where he's like, look at how cheap food is in Russia. He's not doing that this year, because food prices went up faster in Russia than they did in the U.S. this year. But also, they were always higher as a percentage of income for the average Russian in Russia. But
largest nuclear arsenal. It has accelerated ever since, and it's reached its apogee so far in the weeks after Trump's election. He's now the president-elect. In that time, just a few weeks ago, the Biden administration, American military personnel launched missiles into mainland Russia and killed at least a dozen Russian soldiers. So we are, unbeknownst to most Americans, in a hot war with Russia, an undeclared war you did not vote for and that most Americans don't want, but it is ongoing.
Well, joining me to debate all this is the author of Provoked, How Washington Started the New Cold War with Russia and the Catastrophe in Ukraine, Scott Horton. The former Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill, the host of the founder of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, and Ukrainian streamer and YouTuber, Ukrainian Anna. Welcome to all of you here. Let me start with you, Ukrainian Anna. First time we've had you on Uncensored, so welcome to you. I watched the interview with President Zelensky at the weekend, and I went to Kyiv 4 months after the war began and interviewed him and the First Lady. And he was resolute then that Ukraine would not cede an inch of territory to Vladimir Putin. And that was certainly the mood of all the people. And yet here we are, just over 2 years later, and there's no doubt that he is now counting.
Oh, wow, maybe because we fucking slow walked the eighth of them the whole time. We didn't let them strike into Russia until recently. Wow. And also maybe it's obviously your rhetoric's going to be more patriotic at the start of the war than it is now. But okay. You are the problem, Piers. You are the reason, okay?
The idea that Ukraine would cede the territory that's been taken by Putin in return for membership of NATO for the rest of Ukraine. What did you think of that interview that he gave?
What I think about it is there are certain realities that we have to contend with as people, and many people in Ukraine are of the opinion that Trump will, when he becomes president, push Ukraine to basically some sort of concession. And our job is now to somehow figure out how do we guarantee our security in the future and how we prevent Russia from attacking us again, which is something that most people think NATO membership is, because Russia is not in the business of attacking NATO countries. It's in the business of attacking Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine, countries that are outside of NATO's protection. So yeah, most people in Ukraine obviously don't want to cede anything, because we know what happens in those occupied territories, and so does UN and many other organizations that gave their nod to the acknowledgement that there is a systematic torture, rape, abuse, deportations of Ukrainians, prohibition of Ukrainian language, culture, and all sorts of horrible things. And of course, nobody wants to abandon our people to that sort of fate, but also you have to kind of content with what our allies want and what is their decisions. So I believe
I can't wait. All of them are going to mention it. It wouldn't surprise me if Piers mentions it too. Don't you know that Eastern Ukraine actually wants to all be part of Russia? Don't you know they voted for...
He is doing exactly that. He's, acknowledging the reality of Trump's presidency and what will happen. Yeah, so I think we should also, wait and see what exactly Trump will do, because his plan has been discussed, but we don't know really much details so far. So yeah, I wouldn't jump into conclusions right now.
No, I think that's right. I think that, I mean, I'll bring Scott Horton in here. Scott, the thing about Trump is he's unpredictable. We don't know. Now, I talked to him last week about this. We don't know exactly what Trump's going to do. People keep trying to say this is what he'll definitely do. He'll give Putin everything he wants and so on. I don't think that's going to happen. But in terms of this deal that Zelensky seemed to be putting forward...
he acknowledges that now. Okay. He might have talked about this on Ukraine before, but I mean, it is true. We really don't know what Trump is going to do about Ukraine. The only thing he mentioned on the campaign trail was the war wouldn't have started under me. Half the Trump supporters I talked to think he's going to stop giving Ukraine everything, and they're like that. And half the Trump supporters I talked to think that he's going to continue, or he's going to get Ukraine a favorable deal, and they like that. But his own supporters can't even decide. But how often did Piers criticize Kamala for not having good enough policy or clear enough policy? Really?
Putin would keep the land that he's taken, but that the rest of Ukraine would come under the NATO umbrella. Do you think that's something that Putin would even consider as part of a peace settlement?
Oh, I really don't know. I certainly doubt that he's willing to accept anything that would include even what's left of Ukraine joining the NATO alliance. I certainly hope that Trump would not entertain that. That's what this has been largely about, of course, along with the context. Oh,
yeah, right, because NATO expansion is what caused it in the first place, right? I forgot about that, isn't it?
Preventing exactly that conclusion. I think it's a real dilemma because
Israel minister, I don't care about whatever Smotrich said today. I'm not interested right now.
Trump has won an election on repudiating Biden's policy and seeking peace here. It's quite frankly that the Ukrainians are just in no position whatsoever to reverse Russia's gains on the ground. Even the Biden administration admits that now. The Post, the Times, and the Journal all quote military experts saying that truly is the case. So, in other words, Kiev and D.C. are in a position of weakness, and all Trump really has to threaten is more weapons sales and increased weapon shipments. But Biden already tried that. That didn't make the difference. And so,
did we really try our hardest though? Did we?
What's going to happen is the Russians are going.
How long did it take the congressional aid to get approved? And the congressional aid still has limits to it. They can't strike. They couldn't strike inside of Russia until recently for the Kursk offensive. I want to say Kiev offensive.
Kursk offensive. Probably all four of those eastern and southern
President
provinces.
of Ukraine before Zelensky was put there by Paul Manafort. True.
Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson, and hopefully will not demand Kharkiv or Odessa. We can stop it there. And the Trump administration is going to have to get their messaging straight that this truly is a betrayal, and they admit it, but that it's Biden's betrayal. Biden made this country and these people promises he could not possibly keep. We're going to help you force the Russians all the way out and all of these things. And all they've done is gotten a bunch of people killed, and then they lost anyway. And it's a real tragedy. But it's not Trump's fault. Trump has to be able to have the political capital in this country to say that, look, it is ugly. But you know what, Piers? He actually, and I don't know how he did this, he got Zalmay Khalilzad, the card-carrying neoconservative, Straussian, to sign a deal with the Taliban to get us out of there. And yes, Biden absolutely botched the withdrawal. I could go on for an hour about that. But
kill me, dude.
To say, you know what? We lost. We're not keeping the Taliban out, and we're going to stop trying now. And Biden, it was really the best thing Biden ever did in his life was agree with that, even though he botched the process of the withdrawal. And so it's the same kind of thing here. It is a real tragedy what the Biden administration has gotten the country of Ukraine into here.
Cenk, I mean, look, every part of me is I don't want to give a Russian dictator who's illegally, in my view, invaded a sovereign democratic European country that's been independent since the mid-90s. I don't want to give him an inch of that.
The beer guy is Hughes Trump simp. Yeah, I can tell from everything he says. Yes, I'm aware.
It comes in war. I've got a lot of military in my family. There comes in war a cold, hard reality check, as Anna was alluding to earlier, where we are where we are. We can all be idealistic about what we'd like to happen, but the reality is that it is highly unlikely. Now, I think that Ukraine, without a massive extra support from the likes of America, which is simply not going to come, that it is a case of Putin will probably be able to keep what he's taken. Is that your assessment? And is that right for the world, that we give him this big win, which is effectively how he will portray it?
Yeah, that is my assessment. And so the reality on the ground is that when Trump won, we lost about 20% of Ukraine. Now, there's a good argument to be made that you'd already lost that 20% of Ukraine and you were never going to get it back because of the military realities on the ground. So, this has been a very, very difficult question because the U.S. did push Russia too much. We did push NATO to its borders when we said we would.
Kill me. Why is he's repeating this?
I understand all that. But at the end of the day,
What? When we said we wouldn't, when did we say that? Was he talking about the promise not to put troops in the verbal promise we made to the Soviet Union to not put troops in Eastern Germany? Really? Is that what he's talking about? Are you kidding me?
Start a war. So Putin is definitely guilty. Add on top of that 12,000 civilians killed. Add on top of that 20,000 Ukrainian children kidnapped. But what's the answer? Is the answer to fight for the next 10 years, 20 years? Is the answer to cede ground to Putin? Well, that's also super dangerous. That's why this is an unsolvable riddle, because you can get the peace now by doing what Trump is likely going to do, which is Russia.
How long does it take Piers to cut off Cenk from talking? We'll see. We'll see if he can.
But the next time Russia thinks about invading a country, they're going to think, well, we went into Georgia and took a chunk. We went into Crimea, took it all, when it was part of Ukraine. We went into Ukraine again, we took 20% of it. It turns out aggression is rewarded, and Netanyahu's watching, and he's going to take a part of Gaza, and China's watching, and they've got the Uyghurs in the detention camps.
You know what? This is the ultimate argument for funding Ukraine, okay? If we don't fund Ukraine, then people are going to, then Netanyahu's going to realize no one's going to stand up for the Palestinians, okay? This is the ultimate argument, okay? All leftists have to support Ukraine aid now, okay?
In the re-education camps, and the Russians have the Ukrainian children in the re-education camps. So this is really, really dangerous for the world, no matter how it's resolved.
Yeah, Rob O'Neill, you've been at the sharp end of some of the worst conflicts, wars of the last 25 years.
Okay, you're not wrong, Chris. Pierce does cut off left-wingers too early a lot of times to say a dumb, retarded point. But also, Cenk rambles, so it's totally fair for him to do that to Cenk.
We serve it's not least in killing bin Laden. What is your overview of where we are here? Trump coming in, obviously, is going to change the dynamic. He proved in his first term he's not a warmonger. He thinks war, apart from anything else, is just terrible business.
Kill me, dude. This guy is insane, by the way. I don't even think we know. I don't think it can actually even be independently confirmed that he killed bin Laden, because the U.S. has never released that information. I think he just claims it. I don't even know if his own whatever team, I think, also contends whether or not he actually killed bin Laden, and he's fucking insane.
Odds are very low. The other side of that coin is, do you let a Russian dictator run into a European country, take what he wants, and just let him have it? What's your view?
Well, unfortunately, we're in a position where it doesn't matter why we got here. We're just here. And Cenk was mentioning Georgia and Crimea and invasion of Ukraine. That's all weak leadership on the United States. Unfortunately, when we have a strong United States, we have a more stable world most of the time. I mean, we did invade Iraq, and I disagree with that, even though I went there. But you're going to have to go to a position of negotiation. I mean, we did say we weren't going to push in NATO for.
I don't even think it. Not that it's super important, but this guy is insane. Yeah. Subject of controversy for claiming to be the sole individual to kill bin Laden. I think his own people on his team were it's hard to know who even actually killed him. But you realize the U.S. pushes Kiev regime to mobilize 18-year-olds by. Yes, I've heard. Yes.
Further east.
I don't it's so you. I understand you think that forced conscription makes literally any country illegitimate, but you think that makes Finland illegitimate, It's such an unbelievably dumb take that would make literally half the countries on Earth illegitimate. That it's so obviously a reductio. But
Estonia, we were moving there, and now Ukraine wants to be a part of NATO. And
you support that U.S. government. I support U.S. giving aid to Ukraine. I don't even know. I don't know if the making 18-year-olds fight is a good decision, because in the long run it could hurt Ukraine, because the population collapse that you could have because of it. But
Russia doesn't want that, and you're dealing with big countries, but you're also dealing with big egos. And Vladimir Putin grew up in a part of Russia where part of the fun was chasing rats with sticks, and he found out what it was like to corner a rat. And that's kind of where he is right now. He's been in charge of Russia since the early 90s, let's be honest. And he wants to save face with his people. He's lowering the conscription age to get people in there to fight. It's like he's not going to back out, but you can't let him take more. And I'm by no means defending him, but I also think that Volodymyr Zelensky's a puppet, and he's laundering money just like most people in Washington and Ukraine. That's why the whole argument in Ukraine is how much money people can personally make in Ukraine. I hopefully think that Donald Trump brings a big stick. Also, he doesn't care about embezzling money like the United States is now, and whatever they're doing.
Kill me.
It's not a good situation, but we definitely need deterrence. We need alliance solidarity, which we lost by leaving Afghanistan the way we did, and a forward defense. Right now, our Navy.
Did we lose alliance solidarity because of that? What? More than Trump did when Trump constantly harassed NATO members? Like, really? Like,
which is the epitome of our forward defenses under the Biden administration.
Didn't his own fucking general say Trump wanted to pull out of NATO? Like, what? Like, really? Like,
and getting green.
How are we already on transgender bathrooms? How did we get here this quickly? What did I miss?
Under the Biden administration is worrying about getting more transgender bathrooms and getting green.
Kill me.
They're all nuclear, which is green. It's just there needs to be some adults in the room and talk reality, because here's where we are, and someone needs to come to the table and talk to someone else, not worried about how much jewelry Mrs. Zelensky can buy in New York on the taxpayer's dime.
Right. And how popular is Volodymyr Zelensky now with Ukrainian people, do you think?
I'd say pretty popular still. Most people consider him a pretty good representative of Ukrainian people and what we want. And pretty disheartening, I'd say, to hear what people say here, but I'm used to it. Surprisingly, Cenk, I agree with in the sense that we can't allow Russia to continue get away with what they're doing, because that's what they have been doing, in particular with annexation of Georgian territory and Moldova and Ukraine in 14 and now in 22 full-scale invasion. And nothing stops them then from fully invading Moldova or Georgia. They are already doing all they can to select people there as presidents and meddle in their elections quite strongly already. And if they can't do it with just hybrid methods of sabotaging the elections and making people basically install their puppets there, then they do sort of like a blackmail. Then they do threats, and then they do annexation, invasion, terror, death, and all that we are having right now in Ukraine. And that's not.
And how would you describe? And how would you describe the mood of the Ukrainian people? When I was there, like I say, 2 years ago, to a man and woman, whatever age that I met, there was this steely resolve of we've got to win this at all costs. But the cost has been enormous. So many cities just destroyed, so many people killed, all these children being taken, and so on. Is there a mood now in the country that they just want peace, just want a deal, even if it...
Actually, Trump did say that if NATO didn't pay their fair share, and now most of the countries are paying their 2% of GDP in defense, that's a win for Trump. I don't think it was. I don't think it was the best way to do that, man. First of all, that's a target that Obama set, right? And Trump it was Trump's general who said Trump wanted to leave NATO regardless, right? I feel like I read that before. Where's the fucking NATO shit? Okay, what the fuck? Oh, here we go. Trump expressed contempt for late Senator John. Okay, Senator Trump criticized NATO threat to pull out. Yeah, Trump's renewed threat to abandon NATO. Trump said he would not protect countries that did not meet. Oh yeah, to do whatever the hell they want, like if they don't pay the 2% or whatever. Oh, kill me. Trump is scaling back with commitment to NATO, which not ensuring Article 5 protections for countries that fail to meet defense spending goals. Trump National Security Advisor Keith Kellogg said that NATO should remove Article 5 protections for any... Oh, the guy that was just nominated? Dude, fire. Dude, let's go. Dude, awesome sauce.
It means
kill me.
The territory has been taken?
Nobody wants peace more than us. I live in this...
Yeah, the U.S. could go their own way. Here it is. According to Politico, Donald Trump unleashed havoc on NATO on Thursday, threatening to pull out of America's allies don't boost spending, then praising the alliance as a fine-tuned machine. The president disoriented NATO leaders for the entire two-day meeting with a whiplash performance that included challenging Germany delivering what one official called a prolonged rant on spending.
City that is bombed every day. My father has been killed. So of course we want peace, but that depends on what that peace is, because nobody wants peace without any sort of justice, right? And that is the problem, because we have to consider our now, obviously, right? Even if the fire stops. So let's say my city stops being bombed every day. That's a bonus for me, obviously, right? And for my family and for my friends. But how important is that bonus? Because it's a temporarily bonus. We have to think about the future, that other people, other generations are not going to go through exact same things we went through. And that's quite important.
Yeah, I know Poland's doing a lot of spending right now, thankfully.
Solid. As you said, people were more into enthusiastic before, specifically because of the, I would say, lack of care and lack of commitment from our allies, particularly the incredible amount of limitations on our long-range strikes. For example, as you know, UK actually gave us the long-range missiles, Storm Shadows, I believe.
Oh my god, she's gonna trigger them so much. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. They're gonna be so triggered. They're all three of them are gonna be so triggered. World War III.
And we couldn't really use them because of the limitations that were given to us, primarily by United States and by Biden, by the way, himself, his administration at least. So in that sense, there has been a sort of demoralizing effect, of course, because of the lack of aid, inconsistent aid from both United States and also European countries as well. And it's hard to sustain that sort of like, I'd say, hopefulness and will when you are not confident that you will have means to fight with properly.
Yes.
And that, I would say, dampened the mood.
Yeah, I understand that. Scott, you know, a lot of people have come on this show since this war started, and they've made the argument, which I know that you subscribe to, which is effectively the West and Ukraine goaded Russia into doing this by continually pushing.
It's gonna be a 4v1 in this, because Anna's the only person with like the reasonable take.
NATO membership.
Even Cenk is like,
NATO
even. I don't know if Cenk is referring to something different. I think Cenk is literally referring to the verbal promise that James Baker, or whatever his name is, the Secretary of State made with Gorbachev to the Soviet Union, which is a country that doesn't exist anymore, by the way, to not extend troops into, as Gorbachev said, the agreement was only into East Germany after reunification. That's where the 1-inch eastward quote come from, that's what Gorbachev said. Like kill me, dude. Like, really? He's repeating that unless he's I can't imagine what else he's referring to though. But
there's another school of thought.
But I took his family must have bad genes.
That actually, yeah, you can take that argument. You can see there's merit to that argument.
With what?
Certainly to a degree.
What diplomatic solution would have actually been a just solution, Piers?
It doesn't justify
never letting Ukraine join NATO, and then Russia just invades in 2 years anyway. Like, really? Like, what?
Invasion of your neighboring country. Would you accept that the invasion itself didn't actually have to happen?
Yes, I have a whole section in my book about all of Putin's different options that he could have taken. The book is not called Justified, why Russia had to do what they had to do. It's called Provoked, how Washington started the new Cold War with Russia and the catastrophe in Ukraine, because the book is 700 pages of all of this going back to the end of the last Cold War. And with all due respect to the guy that shot bin Laden in the head, thank you. And with all due respect to this young woman whose country is being bombed to death and their opinions here, it's just not the case. That what we have is a simple case of a Hitlerian, Putin-led Russia running roughshod and rampage, and the only thing to stop them is when tough, good guys like us stand up to a bully like him. For example, in a war that they both cited numerous times here today, the Georgia War was begun by the American sock puppet,
Kill me,
he launched that war
kill
and killed Russian peacekeepers in
me.
his initial assault. And they lied about that, led by John McCain during the campaign at the time in 2008. But even the New York Times later admitted that, yeah, it was true, that was how that war started. And and part of his motivation to do that was that Bush, a few months before, had given him sort of a pseudo membership action plan for joining NATO. But you can't join NATO if you don't have settled borders. And Georgia had these 2 breakaway provinces under Russian protection. And so he was
under Russian protection,
trying to reincorporate them so he would have a settled borders.
Oh my God, kill me, dude. Yeah, Russian protection. What a nice way to frame. Yeah, like Russia funding like separatists in the fucking country. Like, wow, kill me, dude. You would never accept this if this happened in the U.S. or even in a country you liked. I don't know. He probably likes Israel. Like, what if the Golan Heights just declared independence and then fell under Syrian protection? Like, oh my God, fucking kill me, dude. I was gonna say something else too. Oh, the NATO action plan. It was not even a real fucking. It was I think in like 2008, like NATO made a commitment. NATO just said, yeah, Georgia and Ukraine will join one day, but we don't even have any plans for them to join in the like immediate future. And that's all it took. That's all it took for Putin for the Georgia war to happen. Like, really, dude? Really?
Some sort of a pseudo membership action plan for joining NATO. But you can't join NATO if you don't have settled borders. And Georgia had these 2 breakaway provinces under Russian protection.
He even says pseudo, like
trying to reincorporate them so he would have a settled border so he could join America's military alliance, which completely blew up in his face and got a bunch of people killed. But that's just not the same thing as Putin wakes up every day scheming on how he can conquer Poland, and only America's threat of ultimate H-bomb annihilation is holding him.
If Ukraine's worthless, what is Russia doing? True.
It's much more complicated than that. And, again, back to your original question. It's not to say that he's justified in what he's done, but it's like if you get in a bar fight.
Malibu, you think you literally, it's so infuriating. You realize Russia does forced conscription too. Are they illegitimate? Like, what?
You're shoving a guy with a knife in his pocket, and he stabs you. that doesn't justify you shoving him. Doesn't justify him stabbing you. But also, you were shoving a guy with a knife in his.
What's the shoving? What's the shoving is? The shoving is making sure Putin can't lay his fucking dick on Ukraine because you actually give them a security guarantee. Are you kidding me?
Pocket, and don't pretend like he just woke up this morning looking to pick a fight with you. And one more thing here, a great example, and then I'll leave it, is the status quo in Crimea held from 1991 all the way through 2014. What changed was that, and there was a controversy over it. It's an extremely important Russian naval base there at Sevastopol and the rest of this. It was in controversy since independence. But the status quo held until the Barack Obama government overthrew the government of Ukraine.
I knew it was coming. Oh, let's go. The Barack Obama government overthrew the government of Ukraine. I remember that happened, dude. I remember that. I remember when Barack Obama ordered that. Yeah, the CIA coup in Ukraine. Yep, I remember that one, buddy. Yeah, the Euromaidan. Yep.
10 years. And then the new regime immediately threatened to repeal and abolish the Kharkiv Pact, the agreement by which Russia was allowed to stay at Sevastopol. And it was only then that they seized the Crimea.
Yeah, that was also the, after like all this shit with the EU happened, the EU deal like Parliament voted on, and then Yanukovych vetoed because he wanted to sign the Russia freedom, the Russian, I forget it, it's like Russia free agreement, whatever the fuck, pact. The Parliament already voted on to, side with the EU, and then he tried to side with Russia. Then, like, his people protested it, and he fucking fled to Russia.
So it's not to say that, it was perfectly justified for them to do so, but it is to say that it was Barack Obama and Joe Biden who picked that fight, and then it was Putin who finished it. And then this is a big part of the reason why the war in the East broke out immediately, was because when the dissenters seized buildings in the East, including with some Russian help, just like the West.
At least he says that, including with some Russian help.
Westerners helped the Maidan. They declared war.
What's the evidence to what? Okay, even if you accepted that the Westerners helped the Maidan or whatever, because we have one phone call from Victoria Nuland saying, "Oh, we prefer Zelensky over the other dude" or whatever. Even if you accept that, this support on the Russian side, it's military support to take over buildings in Donetsk, and like. On the like Western side, it's like it's what, diplomatic support for the interim government? Really? These are equivalent to you? What?
Against them. They overreacted at John Brennan's behest. We know this. It was reported in Forbes. John Brennan went there on April 12th. They launched the war on the 14th. And the reason they did that was because the coup had already blown up in their face in the loss of Crimea. Right. So they weren't about to tolerate this kind of dissent in the East. It's not Russian propaganda.
They weren't about to tolerate obviously they're not going to tolerate another country funding separatists in their country. You would never tolerate that. Are you kidding me? What?
And I'm a Texan. I don't even read Russian or know what the Russians say about this stuff.
Oh,
this is the history of the world.
I speak Russian. That's my.
That's
yes.
fine. Listen,
can I please interject with that?
Well, let me just say right here. Anytime anyone contradicts the party line on this, that's all anyone ever says is that this is Russian propaganda. But that's just a bunch of crap.
Because it is.
They're plagiarizing me.
You repeated it in
and
English.
I'm just speaking the truth.
Are you getting money or not?
I'm just wondering, lady.
At least
probably is getting money. Let's see. He's probably paid by Tenet Media.
I think it's all you because you can't contradict any of my facts, so you have to come up with this nonsense.
I can contradict everything you said. I
the reality is,
in my
no one in America cares about Russia at all, lady. Nobody in America cares about Russia. Back in the days of communism, there were communists that did.
Can I please have a word? This person spoke quite a bit. We had given him a rooper to repeat Russian talking points and lies.
True.
So,
okay, well, Scott, let Anna just respond to what you were saying, Scott.
Okay, let's see how long Piers lets her talk for before he cuts her off and goes to like Cenk or somebody else who also supports the dumb narrative.
It's kind of difficult to counter everything. Basically, it was not a coup. It was a revolution that millions of people participated in. The reason we participated, me included, I was 19 back in the day, it was because we had severe problems with corruption and a tyrannical puppet of Russia, Yanukovych, who refused to make a treaty with the European Union, which is what most of the people in Ukraine wanted, 60-something%.
The parliament voted
especially
it.
Younger people
wanted
to move away from Russian control, from Russians owning every single business industry in my country, and to have some sort of like laws and order, and also have some sort of democracy and liberty. That is what something people have in the West, and that's something that we did not have. So that was about, revolution was about that, about students going and protesting and getting beaten up, and Yanukovych then going to Russia to essentially ask Putin his buddy.
God, why is he so fucking smugly smiling, dude? Dude, fuck this bitch.
He then made dictator laws that prohibited people to effectively protest at all in this country. So we didn't appreciate that, and we went, literally millions of people participated in Maidan. That is not a coup. That is not something you buy for Obama or Nuland cookies. I'm sorry to say, never received a single cookie yet.
Don't you know, actually, See, Obama, you know, the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy, you know, that actually paid all this millions of student protesters to go protest and overthrow their government. Don't you haven't heard that one before? You didn't get your NED check, Anna?
When
what?
going to Georgia is a whole other thing, but that's just what Russia does. It creates unrest. It supports militias in the countries, and then it basically
True. Yes.
them
Correct.
with weapons,
Yes.
and it also applies its own soldiers to annex territory by the guise of protecting Russian speakers or any of that. Scott is a master. I believe Scott is the name, right? Here, but I am a Russian speaker from Eastern Ukraine. It's about as east as it gets in Kharkiv, and I didn't require their protection. I was never prosecuted. What they did is that they attacked us under the guise of protecting Russian speakers that were never prosecuted in this country, because half of us literally are Russian speakers who have been Russified back in the day by Russian Empire. So yeah, this war is not about you. I'm sad to say some things are not about America. This war is about our very long time, centuries-long oppressor trying to thrust us back under their control.
God, why is this guy smugly trying to kill me, dude?
Want that, if you can see it currently by the revolution and the protests going on in the country, exactly for the same reason, because their corrupt Russian puppet government refused the people's will to be.
Bro, I can barely read what he says. She does not tell you that. I'm assuming Yanukovych, oligarch backer, Rena. I don't know who that guy is. Kept all his businesses and access to government after Yanukovych was deposed. That doesn't, okay? What does that change?
So it was never about NATO, because we never discussed joining NATO until Russian invasion. It was never even a conversation in Ukraine about joining NATO. So thanks for the lies, obviously. Also, yeah, they do have borders with NATO right now, and they had them before. Now it's even bigger. It doubled because Finland, in fear of Russia, joined NATO. That's why people join NATO, because they want protection from Russian aggression.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Rob, you've been waiting patiently. It's interesting. I mean, I find with these debates, I learn a lot, but I'm not entirely sure where the truth lies, having just heard two very different versions of the history here. What would you like to say?
Well, I mean, what I like to say is I'm obviously Anna has more experience than me. She lives there. She's lost family members. And having seen war firsthand, I know that most people don't want to be at war. Most people are trying to get on with their lives. And unfortunately, there are bad people that force this stuff. And my heart goes out to them, too. And I'm definitely going to buy Scott's book after this. I'm actually sitting here on this panel learning a lot. And I'm open-minded about stuff, because I used to be, America, apple pie, we're the greatest in the world. But
oh, my God, kill me, man.
In the United States, having worked in D.C. and living in New York, I just don't like my taxpayer dollars going over to a place where people are funneling into their own pockets and threatening a nuclear war, because it doesn't matter who does it.
Oh my God, kill me.
If it's India to Pakistan or...
Bro, we spent like $2 trillion on your fucking war, and you won't give $100 billion to Ukraine. Are you kidding me? And like the money doesn't even get the money. 85% of the money just goes to the same people for the Afghanistan war. It goes to U.S. military contractors in the U.S. that provide U.S. jobs, bitch. Like... Oh my God.
Israel somewhere else, or the United States decides, the only country, by the way, to ever drop a nuclear weapon on another country. If that happens again, we're going to go into a thing called nuclear winter, and you're going to want to die in the blast. You're not going to want to die doing that. My interest is in getting corrupt politics out. Well, first here, hopefully it starts in January, and then maybe it can spread somewhere else. You're never going to get rid of corrupt politicians, because narcissists are they just go there. Washington's full of them. I've been there. I've seen them. Obviously, Vladimir Putin's a horrible person. I don't like Volodymyr Zelensky either. I'm tired of seeing innocent people get killed for other people getting rich, because that's what happens. I'm tired of seeing soldiers who don't want to be there, both Ukrainian and Russia, fighting in trenches like they did in World War I, and getting hit with suicide drones, which is the wave of the future, almost to the point where we're going to stop having manned jets, because it's a waste of time, and legions of drones will be fighting. I hate to see this escalation of force. I hate to see people getting rich everywhere, from the industrial complex of the military, of big pharma, of all that stuff. It's just sad as someone who went somewhere, risked my own life to kill the #1 terrorist in the world, and now wonder if some of the places we went were even worth it, or we're just making people like Dick Cheney rich. So that's why I'm here, and I'm just open-minded. I want to hear what Cenk has to say. Buying the book, love to hear Scott's book, love to hear what Anna's saying, and I'm honest to God just learning stuff here today. So
do you know what? That's such a great, honest answer, Rob. That's why I love having you on Uncensored, because you're an honest guy, and I really appreciate that. I feel the same way. I don't profess to be a great expert here. Cenk, I'm going to come to you in a second. I'm just going to have a quick break to speak to the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, General Wesley Clark. General, thank you very much.
Oh, let's go. NATO guy based. NATO. Cenk has such a beatable face.
Look, there's a lot.
He kind of does, especially when he rambles on for way too long. Although he's only gotten to speak once so far. Okay, so we're doing good.
I was in Ukraine on the 31st of March. I went through Maidan. I talked to the people. I looked at the lamppost where Putin's henchmen had killed a bunch of Ukrainians. There were a bunch of bullets still embedded in the lamppost. I followed it very, very closely. I don't know exactly what you want to talk about. If I'd been on your panel, I would probably disagree with most of them. The people in Ukraine are fighting for democracy. NATO didn't push itself to the borders. It was drawn to the borders by people in Eastern Europe who wanted freedom. They wanted freedom from Russian oppression. That's why NATO expanded in response to them, not because NATO wanted to expand.
It's not even like it's so easy with like this dumbass, like the fucking bullshit, like realist talking points. Like it's so easy to literally just like flip the narrative. Like at what point is Ukraine just considered like in the Western sphere of influence? Like they like. Did Putin not cross a red line by making Yanukovych reject the EU deal? Did Putin not cross a red line by doing shit to by like breaking the Budapest Memorandum with the like sanctions in 2013 and Putin not crossed, like are the weaker countries not banding together to like protect themselves against like a stronger country? Like that's part of realism too, if you're a defensive realist. Like, oh my god, dude.
It's because in order to stabilize, you had to be able to provide investment, and to get investment, people needed security, and they were living in fear of Russia coming back. Now, when did Putin decide to come back?
The guy in the Ukraine girl saying the same thing. That would make sense.
In 1999, at the speech he made in the inauguration of President Kuchma in Ukraine, Putin said, "Ukraine and Russia, we're more than brothers. We're in each other's souls." Poland sent its national security advisor to see me after that. Said, "He's trying to restore the Soviet Union. He's coming after us." So this is a long-held ambition by Mr. Putin, and he's seen weakness in the West repeatedly, and that weakness has encouraged him to move, and it's going to continue until the West shows strength. And that strength means providing much more to Ukraine, bringing Ukraine into NATO, and saying to Mr. Putin very directly, look, stop. We're not interested in strategic arms discussions. We're not interested in investing in your economy. We're not interested in having nice conversations in Switzerland.
Budapest Agreement, a trilateral deal, yeah.
You pull back.
Also, there was a, I haven't done a ton of reading on this, but you know what? There, like, in 2003, before there were, to my knowledge, any talks at all of Ukraine having any agreement with NATO whatsoever, 2003, Ukraine, this conflict, Russia literally just started building a fucking, this is a Ukrainian island, that Ukraine owns, on Crimea. They just started fucking building a, like, bridge to it. And like Ukraine literally had to station fucking troops on this island until they eventually like signed a deal to get Russia to back down. Like September 9, 2003, Russia began construction of a causeway from the Taman Peninsula in I don't know how to pronounce that, towards Tuzla Island, or Tuzla Island, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. The work began rapidly without notice, with up to 180 dump trucks of loads of earth being dumped an hour into the sea. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Literally, Ukraine had to station a bunch of fucking troops on the island to make sure Russia didn't just fucking invade their territory in 2003. 2003. I think the first talks of Ukraine being in NATO is after 2004, and they were not like. It was just like the bullshit like NATO cooperation plan bullshit you'll maybe join one day. Well, let's like keep putting it off forever and not actually let you join until Russia invades your like territory. But like, oh my god, the Russian tugboat across the border to photograph and film border posts and defenses on the island was detained by the border service of Ukraine. The Ukrainians released a tugboat after armed Russian Coastal Guard boats arrived. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Also, like, literally, there was from 2008 to 2014, nothing changed with Ukraine membership in NATO. Like, Ukraine's NATO status in 2008 was the same as it was in 2014. Russia fucking invaded Crimea anyway. Because, I mean, he'll say, oh, CIA coup. But it was just fucking because they signed it. They were going to sign a deal with the EU. Like that, like the EU is a threat to fucking Russia, really? Really?
Account for
they can't have the EU on their border.
Bring to trial the war criminals that have been indicted in Ukrainian courts, and you owe us close to $1 trillion in destruction of our company. So, Piers, these are very clear lines. This is 1937, 1938. And you would have heard the same kind of apologists for Hitler. You would have heard them saying that the peace in Versailles was unfair, and the French, and there's corruption and so forth. There's corruption in every government. It's there in your government. It's there in the United States. It's there in Ukraine, but it's...
Also, by the way, these people constantly fucking go on about the corruption in Ukraine. And then, like... The NED money, the National Endowment for Democracy money that we gave to Ukraine to help fix their fucking corruption, they spurg about too. They say that in itself is like evidence of corruption, even though it's going to student groups that fight corruption. That's like, kill me, dude. That's evidence of a CIA fucking coup, and also, but it's evidence of corruption in Ukraine. It's still corrupt. Like, kill me.
The same as it is in Russia, where organized crime works as an arm of the government connected to the intelligence agencies to assure that Putin and his cronies get what they want. So I think it's a very difficult time. I don't know how the negotiations are going to turn out, but I would tell you this, that that Mr. Trump's in a tough position because if he gives Putin what he wants, he looks weak to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And if he looks to the rest of the world, China's going to move. We've got in the United States a window now to do something in the Middle East, and I think Netanyahu probably will ask Mr. Trump to do it and pose a choice for the Iranian regime, either knock off the hegemonial aspirations and shut down this arc of resistance, including the weapons to the Houthis, or face the consequences. With Iran, you have to go to the source. With Russia, you have to stand firm. We've had deterrence in place for 70 years. We have nuclear weapons. Putin doesn't want to use a nuclear weapon. He's afraid of nuclear weapons, but he's using them to threaten. So people like your bearded guy whose name I didn't get, these are people who are repeating Russian talking points. It's exactly what the woman from Ukraine said. Now, I will tell you that people in Ukraine are suffering. And they would love an end to this conflict. They didn't choose it. It was forced on them. But the only way it's going to be successfully resolved is by strong U.S. leadership. And Mr. Trump is in a position where no matter what he said about ending the war in 24 hours, he's in a position where he simply cannot and will not concede everything that Putin wants. He won't do it. If he does, you won't make America great again. You'll invite war elsewhere in the world. So I see you brought in the rest of the panel here.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Well, no, you know what, General? I've interviewed you many times. I've seen you interview many times. I've never seen you quite this angry. It feels to me like you're angry about where things have
I'm
gone
angry
to.
Well, Piers, I'm angry about hearing misinformation from some members of the okay? Now,
Space.
Before you talk, please, sir. I was at the beginning of NATO enlargement. I was there at the beginning. I talked to foreign leaders. I set up the program as a staff officer in the Pentagon. I was the NATO commander who went to Bulgaria and Romania and Estonia and Latvia. And they told me, we've got to be in NATO. They didn't say,
I don't know, Chris.
Hey, if you want us, okay, I bet you, blah, 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 blah. We said, we don't want you. It's too much of a problem. They said, please help us. And so that's exactly what happened.
Poland fucking blackmailed their way into NATO, man. All the like Eastern Europe has been fighting to be in NATO for so fucking long. We weren't gonna have Poland in NATO. We're gonna have Poland in their bullshit like NATO actions, cooperation treaty bullshit. And Poland was like, oh, fuck that. We're gonna fucking they said the first thing they tried to do was to use nuclear weapons. They said, you know, if you don't let us in NATO, we're going to fucking build our own nukes. You know, you don't want us to have nukes. That didn't work. So the next thing they did is, I think they, it was Clinton who was president at the time. I forget who was running against him. Fuck. And they started trying to talk to the Clinton's opposition instead, so to try to force Clinton's hand into letting them join NATO. And it fucking worked. Like, these countries have been begging to be in NATO. Oh my God. Wait. I'm sorry. These countries' corrupt, Western-backed, evil governments have been given National Endowment for Democracy money to coerce them into joining NATO. There we go. Okay, you're welcome.
We got there. In 2014, when Putin went into Crimea...
I lost? What did I say that was untrue, Malibu? Just then.
But they asked the United States...
Wait, well, not just then when I was making fun of you, but...
What should we do in the United States...
Before I started doing that.
Give up Crimea. Why? Because we wanted Putin's cooperation in the Middle East... and with Iran to stop Iran's nuclear program. When Putin went further in Donbass, we provided information, but we provided no lethal assistance to Ukraine. For all these years, the United States administration was timid in dealing with Putin. It's like one member of the administration said recently, of the Biden administration said, we never expected to have nuclear weapons. I mean, Nuclear weapons have been the foundation for Western security since the end of the Second World War. We've had near confrontations with the Soviets. And because American presidents didn't back down, we didn't have war. Now, Mr. Trump has put himself in an extremely difficult position. But all of our talk about Ukraine and telling Ukraine in advance, you're going to have to give up your territory. And by the way, you're not going to be a member.
I just told you, what? Yeah, a million people got out in the street. There was a mass shooting that was done by, it was probably done by Yanukovych police officers. That's just not true, but... Many died. Well, I don't even know. I don't even, even if it was the right-wing protesters or whatever, I fail to see what that changes. I don't, what...
Member of NATO.
When you said you were lost, I thought you were referring to the thing I said about Poland being in NATO, but I guess not. I guess you...
Right now. Let's put the
didn't care about that one.
Let's get the forces in Ukraine the weapons and support they need so that the people who have already been mobilized can have these weapons and provide the reserves that are necessary in Ukraine. Let's leave an open-ended commitment for Mr. Trump. Let's tell the Ukrainians, strike to your heart's content in Russia. You get no sanctuary. Putin. You started this, you pay the price. And then let's go into the talk with understanding what we want. We want all of Ukraine's land back. We want reparations. We want the children returned. We want the missing people accounted for. And we want the war criminals put on trial. And then we can talk about sanctions relief. No sanctions relief until the conditions are satisfied. And, it's very hard for democracies to be able to stand up to a man like Putin. He doesn't have to worry about real.
This guy's Exxon shale gas lobbyist, even more based. Fuck yeah.
Macron sometimes comes off very strong. Britain has come off very strong in this. And right now, the Biden administration is trying to surge support into Ukraine. And I think President Trump, when he comes in, is going to realize that whatever his relationship is with Mr. Putin and however many times he's called him, he's not going to easily give in and sacrifice Ukraine. He can't afford
You know
to.
we have bases in Poland now, right? Yeah, haven't we had bases in Poland? Yeah, I'm aware. They're in NATO, obviously. Yeah.
That he's worried about his safety. That's like Tony Soprano was saying to you, I'm really worried about the way you're walking across the street. So I'm not angry, Piers, except that there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Can I get in here and respond now, please?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, General, thank you. Just, if you don't mind, I'll bring the others in. I've got to say, you have articulated exactly what I've been feeling this entire time. And I've started to think I was going completely mad. But to have somebody with your experience, particularly from the very start of NATO, outlining what I believe has been the way this has all played out, is actually quite reassuring to me that I've not gone nuts. Let me bring in Cenk, because you've not had a chance to respond for a while. Scott, I'm going to come to you. Scott, I will come to you after Cenk. Right? I must let Cenk.
I don't care about Cenk.
You've been listening to all this, very different opinions.
I want to hear this guy get fucking owned by Mr. NATO himself. Okay, that's what I came here for.
I want to tell you my thoughts, and then I actually would love to ask General Clark a question. And so, look, I understand both sides of this.
We have bases. We have bases in like half the fucking countries in the world. But like,
so if you're the Ukrainians, imagine if some other nation had taken 20% of America, would we want to give up? Would we want to go, oh yeah, it's okay, just take Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, etc. It's fine. No, we'd hate it and we'd fight forever, right? So I understand that. On the other hand, when General Clark starts talking about the nuclear weapons, I get super scared because what if Trump's bluff gets called at some point? Trump's main bluff is, oh yeah, you better not mess with me. I'm crazy. I'll make this war much bigger if you mess with me. Yeah, but what if Putin says, yeah, go ahead? Well, then we're in a lot of trouble, right? Because I don't want to get involved in a war like this. I don't want to get involved with nuclear weapons, etc. On the other hand, your point about Russian aggression is definitely true. I can't stand these people starting wars, taking territory, and it breaks my heart to see it. They kidnap children, etc. So, but General Clark, the question I wanted to ask you, and you know how much I respect you, and we have a relationship.
Oh, the NATO expansion, come on.
Called out the neocons for trying to invade 7 countries at once, including the Iraq War, and so he's earned a lot of respect by doing that. But General Clark, this is a genuine question, which is, okay, but if we go with what you're saying, how long do we fight? How long does Ukraine fight? Okay. How much money do we spend? How many years of war do we have to endure? And what if Ukraine just doesn't win? So let's say we go another 2 years.
Bro, we spent 20 years and $2 trillion in Afghanistan with actual boots on the ground there and still didn't win. Motherfucker, I don't care. Like I think in total we've given not quite $200 billion to Ukraine, right? And we have no U.S. boots on the ground. And it's been 2 or 3 years. I just don't care that much. That's just not that high of a cost. Really, this is one of the cheapest wars we've ever fought.
20 years. How do we resolve it if Ukraine can't win?
Well, I think what you have to do is understand that this war will go on until Putin believes he can't win. So all of this
Malibu, it's just all unbelievably retarded. I understand. You think forced conscription makes a country illegitimate, okay? Russia also does forced conscription, so I guess Russia's illegitimate too. Finland does forced conscription. I guess they're illegitimate too. Literally half the countries in the world, I think it's probably less than half, do forced conscription. It's obviously a fucking absurd position.
In the West about how to preemptively surrender territory and all this it all feeds Putin's appetite. He understands from all this discussion that the West is weakening in its will, and therefore if he just keeps shoving soldiers forward, that eventually the West will comply and cut off assistance to Ukraine and tell Ukraine, good luck, hope you enjoy being part of Poland again, because that's his aim. He doesn't really care about Lviv. What he wants is the north coast of the Black Sea and Odessa, and of course Kharkiv and Kyiv and so forth. And
what is the 2014 Revolution of Dignity? Do you mean in Ukraine?
Eastern Europe that used to be under Soviet dominion. He needs this in order to be able to confront China. And this is the ultimate fear of Russia and its leadership. And they know they can't confront China.
You mean the 2014 Obama overthrow of the democratically elected Yanukovych, corrupt CIA, Victoria Nuland coup.
Unless they have control over Eastern Europe, including the Baltics and Poland and the rest of the Balkan Peninsula. And so it's a long-term geostrategic game. And Cenk, I just tell you this, there's no American soldiers over there getting killed. And most of the money that's been appropriated by the United States is going to buy new weapons in the United States.
True.
The old ATACMs. We've just recently even reprioritized our military sales program. We're still selling ATACMs to Morocco. Now, why does Morocco need 68 ATACMs? I don't know. But we're selling stuff off Patriots all over the world. That stuff should go to Ukraine. As long as the United States stands firm, we won't have nuclear weapons and nuclear war. Putin doesn't want it either. But he does believe right now that we will collapse. And he will continue to threaten the nuclear and play the nuclear card because that's the way the Russians play it. And so you just have to stand firm against it. And you need strong leadership, and you need the American people behind you. And what you have to understand is that Putin understands how to manipulate public opinion. In every country in Europe, there are people there saying, just like one of the gentlemen on this panel said, this is crazy, and people are getting killed, and I'm tired of seeing people dying, and we got to have peace. In 1937, 38, in Europe, everybody had fresh memories of the First World War. It was a horrible experience. A whole generation of British young men were wiped out. The French got...
Dude, why is he so fucking smugly smiling, man?
Group of French divisions, they pulled...
Oh, it's so infuriating, too, especially because, people is constantly screeching about Russiagate, 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 but, the Trump campaign, Russia did have bot farms to try to get Trump elected. Russia does sow dissent in the U.S. Russia does these things.
Got every 10th soldier and shot him for cowardice. Nobody wanted a repeat of the First World War. And so Hitler occupied the Rhineland against instruction. Hitler rearmed. Hitler rebuilt the military. And at every stage there were people who said, well, this is really dangerous, but please, we can't think about it. It can't be another world war. So we're revisiting this in a slightly different form today. If we believe in democracy, if we believe in what we set up, if we believe in the lessons we learned from the Second World War, then we've got to stand firm against Mr. Putin. President Biden should have said to him, look, bud, you come after Ukraine, I promise you, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. But he didn't say that. And he's never said that.
No, he hasn't.
That's the policy has to start.
Okay, General, thank you very much. Let me bring Scott Horton in to respond to that, because you're being
oh boy,
to the people
let's
back
go. Let's
the
see.
Late 30s who just didn't see the danger of Adolf Hitler and Nazis.
Yeah, it's completely preposterous, and it's the refuge of scoundrels who have run out of arguments. I think anyone could see that. It's the same thing as...
So true, buddy.
Endless claim. I mean, isn't this just a talking point that anyone who disagrees is repeating Russian talking points? I don't sit around watching RT all day, memorizing what the Russian regime says and repeating that. I wrote a book that's 775,000 words. Most of it is American graybeards talking about how they know better than the thing that they're about to do and then doing it anyway. And, one of the things that I talk about in there, although I couldn't find too much about General Clark's role in this, but when there was a debate, and I'd like to pose this in the form of a question to him, when there was a debate in the 1990s in the Bill Clinton administration about whether to do NATO expansion or whether to do the Partnership for Peace, was it not the Secretary of Defense, William Perry, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, John Shalikashvili, with the help of General Clark? Weren't they the ones who argued the Pentagon for peace? Let's do the Partnership for Peace instead of NATO expansion. And it was Richard Holbrooke and Talbot and Lake who outclassed the Pentagon.
And then again, by the way, all the Eastern European countries, or I shouldn't say all, I don't know, maybe there's an exception, they wanted real fucking NATO membership. They wanted real NATO membership and not the Partnership for Peace bullshit.
Office politics and forced through NATO expansion instead. And the William Perry, John Shalikashvili, and I believe at the time, Wesley Clark argument was, we don't want to redraw the dividing line in Europe. Yes, it's true. A lot of these countries that used to be dominated by Soviet communists in the battle days, of course, want to join NATO. But we got to look at what's good for us. And what's most important for us is that we keep a decent relationship, a stable relationship with Russia. And one great way to do that would be to, as they said they were going to do at the time, Piers, turn NATO into a political organization, sort of like the EU plus America. But then they would have, instead of an alliance, because there's no enemy anymore, now we would have the Partnership for Peace, a new security architecture, and Russia, the Russian Federation...
I promise you something, dismiss all Eastern European countries' desires.
And Ukraine would be members of it. And then that way, Ukraine's neutrality...
My bad. I just didn't consider Eastern Europe.
...country locked between European, civilization and Russia there, the controversy will be settled with a de facto permanent neutrality there. And then what happened was the Hawks won the argument. And then as all of the graybeards said at the time, oh no, you see what we're doing? We're just redrawing the line. The policy has gone from containment to friends to neo-containment. This is before W. Bush ever even came to town.
Okay, well, let me put that point then to someone who, by the way, for the record, does not have a grey beard, General Clark. But would you like to respond to what you just heard?
It's actually, you're right. We had a multiplicity of interests with Russia at the time the Clinton administration came in. And the first interest was to control the nuclear weapons that were in Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and the loose nukes argument took priority. And we got legislation passed, the Nunn-Lugar Agreement amendment. Basically, we put billions of dollars into helping control the former Soviets' nuclear arsenal. And as part of that, we assured Ukraine that when they gave up their nuclear weapons, and Russia signed on to this, that their boundaries would be respected. You see, in 1991, Ukraine had already voted in favor of independence. The people in Ukraine never wanted to be under Russian control. It's a separate culture. It's a different language. If you look up, and I don't know if you speak Russian, but apparently you don't, but I do. And I thought, well, I'll just go, brush up on my Russian and be able to speak Ukrainian. It's a different language, and it's a different culture. It's a different history. Ukraine's been independent in the past, and it was one of the first subjects of Russia's imperial ambitions going back to Catherine the Great.
Bro.
And the way that it operates is...
By the way, all these fucking realist hack fucks, okay, by the way. Literally, they were the ones arguing Ukraine should have kept its nukes. Ukraine should have kept its nukes. They were arguing this like literally in the 1990s before any like Western NATO provocation, because they understood Russia probably wanted to invade Ukraine and challenge Ukraine even without any Western provocation. So did UK and Russia. China and France also had independent versions of the Budapest Memorandum. Didn't they all sign into the same thing? Welcome to the stream, by the way. Wasn't it all? It was signed. Isn't the Budapest Memorandum signed by Russia, the U.S., Ireland, UK, France? Didn't they all like sign on to the same thing? That's my understanding.
Colonialism. It's an ugly colonialism in which Russia says, "I'm in charge here. I want to."
But also, they are also giving aid. Actually, as a percentage of GDP. Not UK, Russia, US. I'm pretty sure Ireland. Was on there as well. Alright, wasn't it like 6 countries? Why is Reddit the first thing that comes up? US, UK, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus.
Your business. And they buy people and they influence. And I've met many Ukrainian leaders over the years, including some who've made billions of dollars off their associations with Russia. So when the United States looked at this in the early 1990s, we were
Kazakhstan
actually be democratic reform in Russia. But it didn't happen. And as Bill Clinton traveled abroad in 1993 and in 1994, and he looked at it himself and talked to these East European leaders who were emerging, they begged Clinton to give us the protection of NATO. And so that weekend,
accurate, yes.
The speech that Richard Holbrooke wrote in Berlin. And yes, I checked with my bosses in the Pentagon. I said, no, of course we're not in charge. We don't want NATO enlarged. We've got enough problems. Don't bring any other issues. Partnership for Peace had already been established. Russia was a member of it. And I said to my boss, I said, they keep putting this thing in here about enlarging NATO. And I keep scratching it out, and it keeps coming back in. And sure enough, Vice President Gore gave that speech, and he gave it at the direction of the President of the United States because President Clinton himself, in going through Eastern Europe, had looked and listened to the leadership there. He knew the history, he knew foreign relations, he knew foreign policy, and he determined that the best avenue for peace forward was to both provide security for Eastern Europe through opportunities for NATO membership if they wanted it, and work with Russia and give Russia a special relationship with NATO. So we formed the NATO-Russia Council. The NATO-Russia Council had all the members of NATO listening to Russia and all of its concerns. In 1997, 1998, 1999.
I told you be fucking Googling.
I was there.
Listen, we're not even Googling right now. We're doing lazy React content, okay? No Googling is happening as of now. There are no graphs on screen. I know we hate them.
Sitting in that council when former Russian Foreign Minister Yevgeny Primakov gave us a lecture. Russia has no permanent friends. Russia has only permanent interests. And he's looking at me, and I know who he was. He's the guy.
God damn it, I know there was Googling. There was Googling a little bit ago, okay.
Basically started the Palestinian terrorist organizations as a KGB agent. And he knew who I was, and we knew each other. And I knew what he was saying. He was saying that Russia didn't appreciate NATO, wouldn't cooperate with NATO, and was going to go its own way. He later ran for president.
Ukrainian inhabitants have no share in their borders. Same in the case of other countries. Ukraine has Hungarian, Romania, okay, blah, 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 blah. Those live in territories that were not Ukraine before World War II, although Ukraine nationalists claim real Ukraine encompasses territories of many. But yeah, these real Ukraine nationalists, which are, by the way, like 0.1% of Ukraine. So if you have a nationalist regime in symbiosis with Nazis, you are a problem to neighbors. So true, buddy. Unlike the Russians, who definitely don't have, Nazis in their military, right? Wait, did this guy say he was homeless? Yeah, this guy is like a literal fucking. He's like an old. I forget it. How did I already forget his position? He wasn't Secretary of State, but like he was he worked like with the U.S. like during the original NATO enlargement. He said, so. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
The point is that the United States worked assiduously to try to bring stability to Eastern Europe, including working with Russia. And it was Russia that really didn't want this. from the beginning, we actually had hopes that Russia might join NATO. But from the beginning of Putin's time, he crushed democracy, crushed dissent, and stuff.
Didn't we? Isn't the I am done researching this before. Isn't the talking point that Russia tried to join NATO in 1949 or whatever, and we didn't let them?
Consolidated power using the mafia, the Russian mafia, and the intelligence agencies. And so we are in the position where we are today. I've always wished I could talk to Putin and say, look, it's not that we disrespect you. We like Russia. We love Russian music, culture, your history. There's so many great things that have come out of Russia. But you can't step on other people. You can't treat people that way. You can't invade other countries. We're not going to invade you. There's no threat here. I was with the Russian foreign minister.
Also, he's talking about like before the first round on NATO enlargement, which I think was in 1999. Russia still did insane shit. They still sent troops into Moldova. That's why Moldova can't join NATO today, because of what Russia did in I think it was part of it was when it was still the Soviet Union, because of what Russia did from like 1991 to 1992 when they fucking funded troops in the Transnistria or whatever. That's why Transnistria still has like the like if you look at pictures of it, like they have like fucking Lenin statues up still. And like the hammer and sickle still on their flag. Okay, it's not giving me good pictures. I don't want a map. I want a... Okay. Statue. Look, Lenin. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. Yes. This is because of what Russia did in the fucking in 1991, 1992. There were people in the Soviet Union giving aid to this. I believe they did shit in Georgia too. Was it the what's it called? The Georgia 1993 war. This shit too. Like
when we were dealing with
this was before any NATO expansion, before any Western provocation.
Forces in Europe treaty in 1998. And Minister Ivanov said, well, under this treaty, in a time of detention, NATO could put a division in Slovakia on the borders of Russia or Belarus. And I said, Mr. Minister, one NATO division on the borders of Belarus is a threat to Russia? Come on now. Ivanov laughed. He knew it wasn't a threat.
Yeah.
He knew it. Yeah. And so, you just, I'm not accusing anybody of reading and repeating what Russia's telling you to say. I'm saying there's a lot of misinformation out here.
Yeah.
But we are where we are.
That's like what I do, actually. I read and repeat what Paul Krugman tells me to say about trade, about tariffs.
Very, very quickly. We have to wrap, but very quickly, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, very briefly. I wonder, General Clark, if you're aware that your then boss, William Perry, he later told The Guardian that it was the greatest regret of his life that he did not do every single thing he could to stop Clinton from going down the path of NATO expansion.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Here's what I'll do, Scott.
He's paid by Russia, too. Paid by Russia.
Was Clinton right or wrong, looking with hindsight?
Well, I think Clinton was right in hindsight. Because when you unravel what actually happened with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and I have the greatest respect for Dr. Perry, but the KGB, there's a book written on this called Putin's People, and you can read it, but basically the KGB saw it collapsing in the late 1980s. They didn't trust Gorbachev. They moved the money to the West. When democracy started, most of the people in the political parties in Russia were former intelligence agents. They've been schooled in how to campaign. They formed different political parties to make it appear as though there were different parties, but in reality, they were anxious to regain power. So we never really followed through with the opportunity that the dissolution of the Soviet Union presented to us.
Right.
I mean, we could have sent democracy trainers into the Soviet Union. We didn't.
Based.
We had the National Endowment for Democracy. It was just scratching the surface. We never really reached out to the Russians.
Oh, he's not doing a smug face. This guy for sure, and probably this guy too, fucking hates. Then I wouldn't surprise me if Jenks has it too. The National Endowment for Democracy, aka the CIA coup money funneling, corrupt agency.
They don't understand it. They're isolated, and they're just
TLDR,
like
American wasn't interventionist enough. Again, all these Eastern European countries fucking begged to join NATO. Poland didn't want the peace for partnership for peace, NATO fucking action plan bullshit. They wanted real Article 5 NATO membership, like most other European countries or Eastern European countries did. Okay, that's why Poland fucking blackmailed their way into getting it. Like
the American people don't understand foreign policy.
You have no moral ground to say anything about democracy. Okay.
Neither do the Russian people. UN diplomat.
You don't even care about democracy, Malibu. I don't know what your point on that is, but
passports. You live far from national borders. You don't have any appreciation for other nationalities. We could have extended a stronger hand in friendship, and I'm talking not Clinton. I'm talking about George H. Bush when it happened.
Yeah.
We just didn't do it, and we had a very brief window to make a great difference. We didn't. I think that the protection we provided through NATO membership for the countries of Eastern Europe and that we want to extend to Ukraine has been really important.
Check link. I have no clue what.
If you look, I drove a couple of times from Eastern Poland into Ukraine. In Eastern Poland, the house.
Explosive inheritance. The breakaway Moldova region has probably the largest weapons deposit in Eastern Europe. There are concerns about the remainder of these arms stockpiles could be used in future military. What isn't most of this aid from the Soviet Union? Didn't the Soviet Union give them most of this stuff? What are you on about?
Houses are painted, the fields are cultivated, everything looks good as soon as you go across that border. The difference in prosperity is marked. And it's marked because Ukraine hasn't had the protection of the European Union. And
although the Russian Federation committed itself to the OECD summit in 1999 to withdrawing its troops from Transnistria, there are still around 1,500 Russian troops deployed there. Weapons from the former Soviet 14th Army are still stockpiled. Yeah, they are from the Soviet Union, dude. Including ammunition stemming from one brother state to the German Democratic Republic and Czechoslovakia. Like, kill me.
NATO. And that's why the people in 2014, 2013 in Maidan, they saw this. Ukraine and Poland were economically similar in the 1980s. But by 2014, Poland's...
True, dude. I love the graph of the... I think No Opinion wrote an article about this. No Opinion. Ukraine war is about Poland. Where's the graph of the GDP? Okay. Oh, my God. Horrible, 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 horrible. GDP per capita, even. Yeah, these are all the Western integrated countries. Although Bulgaria's, I guess, not ahead of Russia, but I love when people devalue Ukrainians. Oops.
GDP
everything was America.
2 or 3 times what it was in Ukraine, simply because Poland had the association with the West with its security provided by NATO. So we've got to get through what is more than a bump in a road. It's a critical period in international policy where we're going to decide whether the rule of law prevails or we're going to go back to the 19th century competition between empires and emperors and to hell with the people underneath. And that's where we are right.
I've got to leave it there. I don't want to, actually. I could honestly do another 2 or 3 hours of this. It has been an absolutely fascinating conversation with all of you. I really appreciate you all joining me. I've got to leave it there reluctantly, but thank you very much indeed.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
Piers, nice to be with you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was Hunter Biden. You know, Hunter Biden staged a coup there, okay, because of NATO.
Look at what on earth is going on in South Korea.
If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.